Yeah, so a couple weeks ago was South by Southwest, the music fest or the whatever festival in Austin. I don't even know what it is anymore. Arts and Media Festival in Austin. Um, I was there because I worked it, so I worked it during the day, and then I had like a work badge at night. I won't get into that, but it's a lot of times at these festivals, either the festival themselves or other companies will pay you to be there and or give you a badge to be there as payment. It's a thing, but I'd be lying if I said I paid for my own badge because I definitely didn't. And most of my days were spent working it, and then my nights were spent. I think I went to one concert or one music thing, and then a bunch of film stuff. So this is just my takeaways now that my brain is healed and I can think again, because it's just, I learned the first year, it's just because it's all together, all one after the other, you never really get recovery time. And so you just get progressively every day more exhausted and tired until it's a real mess. I didn't get sick this time afterwards, though, because the first time I got the C word, but not the C word. I got the pandemic C word. And then the second time I just got a cold. And this time I think I got away with something. But I'm back. And I just want to talk about some filmmaking takeaways. I'm not going to sort of like, this isn't going to be like secret stuff from the festival or anything, because any of the secrets I have are dumb and boring. And also that's just, I didn't attend any cool secret stuff. So, let's just jump into it. So the first one is, so every year IndieWire for the big festivals, big film festivals, will interview the filmmakers, usually the directors of photography, and talk about their gear and how they sort of went about shooting it, that kind of thing. And I love going through that. So I went through that just for the films that were playing. And my big takeaway from that is almost everything. I mean, not almost everything. The majority of stuff, especially scripted stuff, was shot on RE Alexa or RE Alexa 35, but RE cameras, which is not the same as what most documentaries or music videos or anything like that is shot on. Because if you handle it in RE, you just know they're heavier. I think the easiest way to describe the logic there is it's incredibly reliable. RE cameras are super reliable, and the films that you typically, the average film that gets into South by Southwest is of a certain like financial, like money category, that it has enough money to rent an RE package, and so a lot of them did. Sony Venice was on there too, a few others, but most of the scripted stuff was RE Alexa or RE30 Alexa 35, I think, is the new one. Anyway, RE, because it's predictable. So moving on, I attended a panel of comedy showrunners, and the one guy is the showrunner for whatever that show is on Fox or whatever, that's a medical sitcom or whatever. And he was talking about how when he was staffing his room, a lot of people told him to go watch Scrubs, and he watched one episode and realized he shouldn't watch any other episodes because he's definitely end up copying storylines and stuff, because it's just, Scrubs went for how many episodes? One of my all-time favorite shows, by the way. St. David's Medical, I think, is the name of the show. Anyway, his takeaway was a lot of knee-jerk reaction for people is when you tell them what you're working on, they'll give, and I'm guilty of this too, is they'll give you recommends of similar stuff to watch or to read or whatever. When you're doing something that's expected to do a bunch of episodes, maybe don't watch every episode of what you've been told to watch, because honest risk of copying. This also sort of makes me mentally go down the rabbit hole of, if a show has an expected 100 episodes, so 5 seasons, 6 seasons, 6 seasons in a movie, there's just going to be this episode at a certain point. I started a series on this channel early on, which was that kind of episode. I think I did 3, but it was too much work, and maybe I'll revisit it sometime. But I do believe, especially sitcoms, if you're expecting to do 100 episodes or 6 seasons, you're just going to hit, 60% of all storylines that all sitcoms do in some kind of way. But if it's something specific like St. David's Medical, which is a medical comedy, you're going to hit stuff that Scrubs hit. And so you're better off just not being aware of it, because if you watch it and then you try to find a way to write around it, I feel like it's worse. I'm getting into the weeds. Moving on. Undisclosed conference session. An intro person went for way too long. They were just supposed to go up there and say, so-and-so is so-and-so, they're so-and-so, here's so-and-so. But instead, the intro person riffed for like 15 minutes of the hour. And what do you do? Like, it was a rabbit hole thing, because obviously, at least what I witnessed is never going to see the light of day. That footage is never going to see the light of day because it's just not part of the festival. The featured performer is, the featured artist is, but not the intro person. So it's kind of a neither here nor there. But I don't know, because like I was in the stand-up scene for a while, not a performer. That's obvious, and stand-ups have really specific ways of dealing with people upstaging them because it's a thing that happens. And sometimes it's on purpose and malicious, i.e. Carlos Mencia. And sometimes, you're somebody really famous or really hot on the comedy scene just walks in, gets a slot ahead of you, and then you have to follow that. And what do? You do your best. I think in the case of the situation that I saw, which was the featured artist had an hour to talk about what she was going to talk about, and then got upstaged for like a third of it. I don't know. The artist kicks him off. I don't know. I can't really get into specifics, but the person stayed up there, which I don't think in a lot of situations they would have stayed up there. They would have been played off by music, or somebody would have removed them, or the artist would have just walked up and said thank you. Because it's an unpredictable thing. But then again, Adrian Brody talked for how many minutes at the Oscars and broke the record for talking when you're supposed to be, musiced out. So what do you do? I think it's contextual. I think in the comedy club, if somebody upstages you and you're the feature, anything goes. You can have security kick them off. You can kick them off. You can cut their mic. You're kind of in charge, really, depending on the comedy club. But in a thing that's supposed to be sort of an educational presentation, how do you deal with that? I don't know. I think in the context of what I saw, somebody should have probably just made the call to send the artist up and just not let the person continue talking. I don't think there was a reason to get the hell off the stage of it all, but I don't know. It was wild though, and I really can't say more about that because it's not worth it, and it's also, never going to see the light of day. So, I saw Robert Rodriguez do a session, a talk about his work kind of stuff, and he, I don't know how far I want to go into this. He basically, as a demonstration of how he works as a director, producer on set, talked about an episode in the final season of Meeting Cat Hair of Dusk Till Dawn, the TV series. He talked about how he wasn't there, but they were having problems with an effect that they were going to try to do. So he decided to come in as a second shooter, or like a second unit, and basically just replace the first unit for an hour or something. And he did this interesting walkthrough because it was basically just a special effect, but special effects was going to take a couple days. Visual effects was going to take how many weeks, and so they just didn't have the budget to do it. So he said, I'm not going to do any plans. I know what we want, and I'm just going to show up on set and do it, which made my butthole just, diamond itself, because I'm a big believer is be over prepared on set so that you have every contingency. And he just sort of had the opposite mentality, but the way he walked it through actually made a huge amount of sense. And I realize we all kind of do this. It's just he works at such a high level mentally that I think he just has more tools in his head than indie filmmakers tend to. I think part of it's experience, and part of it he's just fucking fearless. But basically, he just did like a shot list based on how he was going to edit the footage, and said, we need this, we need this, we need this, we need this, we need this. It was like 6 shots. We need these 6 shots. And he basically shot them chronologically, where he's like, you're gonna do this. That's gonna be our wide, and then we're gonna do the initial action. We're just gonna capture the initial action, and then we're gonna capture the what happens next, and then we're gonna do 3 plates of a special effect where you're gonna lunge, and then we do this, and we'll take the thing and hold it in front of you so that VFX can actually VFX in the thing, and then you're gonna fall. And then you're gonna turn around and do the final thing. It was sort of storyboarded like how a comic book page would play out, like a fast action on a comic book page. I don't know if he did that on purpose. It was brilliant. I want to try that approach now. I don't think just mental resources, an entire movie would really work that way, just because it was such a specific, difficult problem to solve that if your entire movie was that kind of approach, I think you would just burn out and run out of ideas too quickly. But for just like a quick spat where he wanted to circumvent having to deal with special effects or visual effects and just get it done cheaply, because he was the only one doing it, basically, it was kind of brilliant. And I think if the footage ever comes out of him talking about it, I'll actually do a reaction to it, because it was wild. But I know I'm underselling it, but it's his material, so it was really cool. Takeaway, there is a time and place for figuring it out on set. I think the prerequisite is experience and confidence, and something he really said stuck with me that I always forget, because I do this, and so even before doing this, I've edited stuff. I edited a feature before. I've edited stuff, even though I'm not an editor. Most people on set don't know how to edit. And I sort of guffawed, because I was like, that's not true. Everybody edits. Everybody in my world edits because we have to. But most people working on like a Hollywood production, unless they went to film school and took an editing class, they probably don't edit unless they're directors of photography, and usually up-and-comers have to edit. But so you just don't know it's not just the storyboarding, but it's the actual like edited sequence of events. And so he can just, in his mind, map out the shots and the pacing and exactly what he needs for the edit across however many seconds. He knows where the cut's going to be, and he just does it. It's kind of how I write scenes these days, but I find I write too slow if I do it that way. So I usually zoom out and just get the thing across, unless it's something really specific like what he's talking about, and then I will write it out. But it was wild. So I guess edit and watch stuff and watch stuff with the sound off and just see why the cut is there, especially good stuff, because bad stuff, bad stuff too, because I find myself in that Jessica Alba movie I watched last year that was just horrible. Trigger warning. Like you can in real time find where the edit should have been, whereas where the cut should have been, whereas where it took place. That was crazy. Anyway, moving on. Robert Rodriguez is ignoring the fact that his stuff he makes these days I don't resonate with. The guy is a true pro. So I sat through a session with the next moon mission crew. So this is a NASA crew. I think they're the Artemis program, like Artemis 3 or something. They're going to the moon. It was cool. I've seen live Q&As with astronauts before, and the one thing I'm always reminded, because I was a big space nerd, I was a big aviation nerd growing up. I'm always reminded that like the kind of people that end up becoming astronauts, the kind of people that end up becoming like test pilots, yes, they're like the Tom Cruise Top Gun of it all, but it's even more ridiculous than that, because it's not just that they're brash and cocky and incredibly smart. It's that they don't get shaken. They don't freak out. Like most people that go to space, one of the filters is you have to be able to not freak out. So I always go back to when that Apollo 13 movie came out and they're freaking out. That's like the one thing that every astronaut I've seen interviewed that talks about it. The astronauts weren't freaking out in Apollo 13. They just don't have that in their DNA. They're there because they don't freak out. So Same with these guys. They're just, they're brilliant. They're good at multiple things, and they're confident because of their experience, and they just don't freak out. And so they were being asked questions that I was like, okay, they get these questions all the time. But it's like, you guys don't get it. Like, this is a completely different breed of person that goes to space. We're not talking about a Hollywood person who's presented with something that makes them freak out. These are people that just don't freak out. That was a rant. Anyways, one of the questions they were asked was about AI and how they're using AI with their stuff, specifically for the moon mission. And I think it wasn't the pilot, 'cause the pilot wasn't there. It was one of the mission scientists just basically stood up and was like, listen, when it comes to going to space, when it comes to putting rockets in space, when it comes to all this incredibly difficult stuff that requires calculations and planning, that's not an AI thing you can do, because AI is based on training a machine on similar things over and over again. Repetition, building, having seen this before, it can predict this. But when it comes to space, when it comes to sort of all the one-offs that exist in going to the moon, for instance, AI is not very useful because its predictability is about the same as somebody just guessing anyway. It doesn't have enough data. I believe that's what the guy said. There's just not enough data to present to machine learning to actually develop anything worthwhile. And he said maybe down the road that'll change, but right now you trust computers, you trust engineers, because it's all one-offs, and there's no point in trying to get AI to guess wrong. So, which I thought was brilliant, because so much of this festival was AI focused, and the bile comes up every time I think about it. But from the astronauts don't use AI that way because it's not useful to them. Also, they're engineers, so they have a really good way of articulating why it's not useful. I've been waiting for that forever, because I'm not smart enough to really successfully articulate why AI is stupid in the form that it's in, but I also register that it is stupid. So thank you, astronauts, for proving my point in a way only a fucking astronaut can do it, I guess, is my takeaway from that. So NASA Artemis mission. I attended the Independent Pilot Showcase, which... last year I thought I had attended that, but instead I attended something else where Mark Duplass basically paid and produced 4 or 5 shorts that were supposed to be pilots for TV shows. He was in a couple of them. It was presented as here are the ones he selected, but the actual realization was it was just he wanted to make a bunch of stuff, so he made a bunch of stuff, and that was the showcase. This was actually like the competition, the Independent Pilot Showcase. It was awesome. I think there were 5. 3 of them were Hollywood level, excellent, made by Hollywood people, more or less. One of them was super weird. I don't really want to get into it. And one of them, I understand why it's an independent pilot, because the narrative context of what was going on. It was about those reform schools or whatever they are, where you take the kids in the night and then they end up in like Idaho, isolated in basically a prison camp kind of thing. It was one of those shows, and it just like, I think it was fine, but it was just like, I understand why this is never going to get made, because it's the way, like, they presented it as real as they could, which was pretty gross, but it was also kind of mundane. Whereas if you heighten it and make it like an HBO or a Netflix thing, it's going to be super like hard to digest. And if you dumb it down and make it like network, it's going to be implausibly dumb. So but the rest of them are good. The big takeaway, especially one of them, which had a bunch of actors, like established actors. One of the actors in one of the pilots, Nat Faxon, has an Oscar for screenwriting. Takeaway, even actors have trouble getting pilots made. And so a lot of actors apparently make these indie pilots with their friends, with the connections they have. And even then, it's hard to get this stuff made. Kind of frustrating, considering my entire being is sort of built around the premise of the Always Sunny in Philadelphia guys made a short film and were able to parlay that into what is now one of the longest running sitcoms. So it sucks, but it is what it is. Last thing, whole festival. AI is a big deal. And 90%, 95% involved don't seem to understand it, but they're super enthusiastic about it. So I think last year or the year before, it was NFTs were the big thing. And there was just a lot of eye rolling from the people that were not presenting it. This year, it was AI. Anecdotally, it didn't seem as like brazenly dumb and scammy as NFTs did, because they were NFTs. However, even though like the one standout AI presentation that I was forced to sit through with an artist, she seemed to genuinely understand like how to use AI the way it is right now, like artistically as a tool. And it was interesting, but it was also like, so that's as far as we go. Like there's no, if you approve upon this, it's going to be the same thing. It's not going to be any better. So it was kind of weird. Yeah. So that was that. But it was also just like the amount of like tech bros that have the like brazen dumb confidence that NFTs, cryptocurrency, to the moon, all these buzzwords that they use. It was just like, paying the bills, I guess. Somebody paid to see these people, but as far as like, did it meaningfully improve my negative opinion about AI as it exists right now? No, it made me really reconsider how many wealthy people are either being duped or really, really dumb that seem to think AI is this thing that it just isn't currently. Because I think the more accurate way to describe AI right now is machine learning, which means you have to teach a machine to do something and then you have to expect the machine to deliver on something you've taught it. Whereas I feel like the promise of AI that is out there right now, the abstraction is you ask AI something and it's going to blow your mind because it's a brain in a box. And that's just not true. So, So good festival. Yes, sure. Glad I had my pass. Exhausting. Nothing crazy this year, honestly. No. Anyway, that's what it is. The film festival was good. I saw a lot of great movies. The music side of it, I just didn't get a chance to see a lot. I saw the big feature, which was Jack's Mannequin and then Band of Horses, and Band of Horses absolutely crushed it. But short of that, it was just business as usual. It's nice when these people that are sort of isolated, because so much of South by Southwest is these featured speakers that either are on the speaking tour or more likely are brought in as a featured speaker because they have a unique insight on something relevant, like what South by Southwest likes to do, which a lot of times is tech. It's nice to see that even though a lot of them are as insane and ridiculous as the show Silicon Valley makes them out to be, a lot of them are just regular people who either had a ton of luck or had something else happen to them that put them in a position. But for the rest of the logic, they're kind of just regular people. That's really what it is. So I don't know if you stayed this long, lulls, just because, I feel like I got to the regrettables, the stuff that's going to get me in trouble part of it at the end of this video, but that's what it is. Hope to call me again next year to work, because it's a good gig, and maybe there won't be a giant brush fire 100 miles away that turned everything red and ashy all day the last couple days, because that was awful, and I'm still coughing it up. But all right, that's it. Catch you next time.